So you've decided to learn data structures and algorithms. Maybe you're looking for your first internship or job in a big tech company, or you just want to learn data structures for stuff like backend development. C# is a really good language to learn data structures in. Although people often like to say that Java and C# are very similar, I still find that the syntax of C# is much simpler than that of Java, and also it doesn't really rely on the JVM for the compilation of the source code. I'm currently in my 4th year of computer science engineering, so I can really guide you through the entire data structures and algorithms, from the basic operations on arrays and strings all the way to advanced interview questions which are asked in interviews for big tech companies. So in this video series, I will be teaching data structures and algorithms in C#. This is going to be a beginner-friendly tutorial, so even if you don't know anything about C# or anything about data structures, you would still be able to follow along. So the first thing we'll need to do to learn data structures in C# is to download Visual Studio, not to be confused with Visual Studio Code, which is a very lightweight text editor. Visual Studio is an IDE, or integrated development environment, which is very popular for creating C# projects. So I'll just quickly guide you through the installation process so we can get to the coding part. Alright, so let's just quickly look up Visual Studio on Google. And you want to go here into Visual Studio, and you will have two options. Firstly, download Visual Studio or download Visual Studio Code. As I have said before, Visual Studio Code is a very light text editor, and you'll have to download lots of extensions in order to run C# codes on it. So it's much better for us to download Visual Studio instead. So right after you click on this link, the download would probably just start automatically. And yeah, it's really not a big file at all, so you can easily download it. And of course, once you've downloaded, just open it and click on yes. So after you get to this screen, you have the option of downloading all of these tools for various kinds of different tasks. For now, you should just select the .NET desktop development. Make sure that you've selected install while downloading, and then click on install. Additionally, you might also need to download the Visual Studio build tools, which for me have already been downloaded. So after all the installation is complete, this is the screen that you're going to get. You can see that on the left there are some projects which I had already created. But if you want to create a new project, we'll just click on create a new project, and then just click on C# console app. You can name your project whatever you want, so let's just call it first project, and click on next. Now here are the two options which you might see over here, along with the option of selecting a framework. You can select either of these frameworks, but make sure that you click on this option, which is do not choose top level statements. It's basically going to include some pre-written code when you create a new project. So click on create. And don't worry about all of these things you see on the screen. I'm briefly going to explain all of them. But before I do that, let's just quickly try to run this code using the run button over here. And you can see that it does work. We get hello world written on the console. So if you're looking at some C# code for the very first time in your life, then you might not understand any of it, but that's why I'm here to help you, so you shouldn't really worry about it. But to make things a bit simpler, I will just close the terminal over here by clicking this close icon, and let's just move this window over to the side. So let's look at all of the keywords one by one. Now everything you see in blue over here is a keyword in C#. Now C# has a total of 79 keywords, as of now, which are used to define functions, variables, data types, and lots of different things. The namespace keyword is used to refer to our project, so it's always followed by the project name, whatever is the name of your project. And then we have curly braces here, which define the scope of um, the code written inside of our project. Internal class is basically the class which contains the main function of our program, and you can really name it anything instead of program. And a class is just a group of functions and variables. We create classes in C# to organize our code better, and classes also help us implement some of the object-oriented programming capabilities of the C# language, which we're going to learn about later on in this video series. And this right here is the static void main function, or the main function of our program. If you're familiar with Java, then it's basically the same thing without the public keyword, which is an access specifier, but you could actually include the public keyword here and it won't really change anything. I in fact prefer to use access specifiers in my C# code, uh, and I will later on explain to you all why you should always use access specifiers, but in the default code there's no problem even if we omit the public keyword. And the static keyword basically means that this function belongs to the class itself and not any other instance of the class. We are going to learn about instances later on, so don't worry. And the main function is basically the first function that gets executed when we run our code. And the string args thing over here is basically written to accept command line arguments. So we'll also be able to pass things to this program, such as files and stuff, right from the command prompt. And this right here is the built-in print function in C#, which is contained in the console library. So you just have to write Console.WriteLine and whatever you want to print in double quotation marks. So you can just type in here, this is my first C# program. And we always end our statements in C# with a semicolon, which is similar to other languages such as C++ and Java. So let's check if that does work. And yeah, so it works fine. This is my first C# program written over here. Another useful console function is Console.ReadLine. So let's say we wanted to get some user input and we wanted to ask the user to enter the name to be printed on the screen. So let's just try doing that. We'll just type in here, enter your name, and we're going to store this name inside of a variable, and let's just name the variable as x. So we'll just store inside of x. And you can see that Visual Studio supports these sort of smart auto-completion things. If you just click the tab key on your keyboard, it just automatically fills in that line, which is correct because Console.ReadLine is used to get input from the user. However, you can see that we get an error over here because we've not really defined the data type of this function. So whenever you are taking in characters or alphabets from the user, you have to specify it as string x. And then we'll basically write Console.WriteLine again, and yep, followed by hello x, which will be replaced with the value stored in the variable x, and then an exclamation mark. So let's just save our code. You just have to click Control S to save your code, and then we can run it again. So let's just type in something over here, and yeah, so it does work. Now let's try to learn about some other data types for variables that we can use in C#. So as I've told you earlier, string is a data type used for names, such as name Alice. Then we have the int data type, commonly used for stuff like age. Another commonly used data type is the double data type, used for stuff like height and weight, which might have decimal values. Another one is char, which is used for initializing like single characters. A less commonly used data type is bool, which only stores two values, either true or false, as ones and zeros. And each of these data types actually assign a specific memory location to that variable, and each of these also have different lengths. So the string data type basically occupies twice as much memory as the number of characters in it, which will in this case be 10 bytes. And this is basically how you write comments in C# using double slash. Double slash symbol is used to write single line comments, so this will only comment whatever is written in this line, but it's not going to comment whatever I write in the line below it, so you should keep that in mind. Moving on, the integer data type is of 4 bytes, double consists of 8 bytes, char only contains 2 bytes, which is why we multiply the string by the number of characters to get the memory size of the string variable. And of course, the bool data type only contains 1 byte because it's only going to store zeros and ones. These are basically the 5 most commonly used data types in C#. There are some more data types used to define variables, but you would probably not need them until you're more advanced in C#. So this is all I'm going to cover for now. Another thing that I would like to add is if you want to write multi-line comments in C#, they can be written using this notation. So whatever I write in here will be commented, and it doesn't really matter how many lines I write in here. All of those lines will be a comment because I've included it in this notation, which is /* and */. Yeah, that's how much memory each variable type typically uses. So to quickly recap, in this video we installed Visual Studio Code and created our first C# project. We also learned how to print stuff on the console and how to take user input. Then we learned about the most common data types in C# along with their memory sizes. And we learned how to print comments in our code. So I hope you found this very basic introductory lecture useful. If you did, then don't forget to like the video and ask me anything you want to ask in the comments. And also don't forget to subscribe because I will be continuing this series and I'll be posting new coding videos every week. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.